I was listening to the internet and I stumbled upon this politician who was giving an interview. He was campaigning internationally, trying to gather some followers and share his ideas about outlawing war. He wanted to stop war, he wanted to criminalize war, you know? And I just couldn't believe it. I was like, wow. He wants to erase part of human behavior. He wants to erase part of the natural order of things. He wants to erase that. This comes from utopia types of philosophies. To outlaw war means there's no differences anymore between peoples, and everybody is living in a paradise. There's no conflicting ideas, you know. There's no different opinions. Everybody is on the same page and everybody's thinking exactly the same thing. And everybody's doing exactly the same thing. There's no friction. That's crazy. That is totally crazy. One of the things I've noticed as well is that there's these narratives, that the Europeans, hopped in ships and just went around the world doing, crazy things. And I was like, you guys don't seem to, again, understand human nature. You think the locals was living, like vegetarians in trees and talking to the animals. You have this romanticized version of things, how things ought to be. The locals was in conflict themselves. In fact, when the Europeans arrived, they built forts to protect, you know, forts and alliances, and there was always conflicts. There was always, and but they have this tendency of painting the Europeans as being the bad guy. It's just incredible to me. Whenever a people is unable to defend themselves, they just disappear. They just disappear. When their culture becomes so diluted with these parasitic ideas of turning the cheek, you know, and outlawing conflict and virtue signaling. And we have to help everybody. We have to extend our grace towards the whole world. They are stretching themselves so, you know, so much that eventually everything collapses. They are losing track of who they are. They're losing track of reality. We have to actually do the opposite. Instead of stretching ourselves, we have to concentrate ourselves. Yeah. Focus. Focus on the here and the now. Yes. Focus on the here and the now, and the tomorrow will come naturally. People, go crazy making plans for the future, and most of the times just doesn't work. They become paranoid, and then they try to, use force, to make their wishes come true. But there's so many things that happen along the way that they will meet resistance, and their plans, you know, fail. Now, for instance, there's this digital era that we're going through, and the usual suspects, they think this time it's going to work. They have the digital prison, they will capture everybody under the same net, you know, and this time they're going to go for it. Yeah. In the past, totalitarian tyrannies always failed because people just stop participating. Now it's going to be, if you stop participating, they will disable your bank account or something. They will disable your funds. They will disable your ability to travel, or disable your car, because cars have chips and everything. You can disable, by the push of a button. They can mess up with you in ways it wasn't possible in the past, and they will try to, and they will try it. They will go for it. Again, they also want to outlaw conflict. They also want to outlaw that's the same utopian idea. Everybody just has to roll over, and accept. It's insane. I'm of the opinion that some laws don't need to be written down. Some laws don't. It's part of natural order of things. You are born with these guidelines already. You know instantly doing harm to others is bad. I knew it. I mean, from the first moment I was aware. I was conscious. I was aware. I knew that harming others. I was careful. I was respectful of others' feelings and opinions. I was or their physical integrity. You know these things. So unaliving someone, I mean, it doesn't require to be written, to be known that it's bad. Yeah, harming others, unaliving, lying, stealing. I mean, we know it's wrong. We don't need to write it down. In the past, they were more practical in these matters. They didn't write down. If whenever they catch a thief, they would, I don't know, remove one of his fingers or remove one of his hands. It's a reminder to not do it again, and it signifies to everybody else that he's a thief. In the case of liars, they used to remove their noses. That's probably where the Pinocchio thing comes, when liars, their nose gets bigger. Well, in the past, they used to remove their nose. The first prosthetics that was invented was actually noses. Well, unfortunately, that could be also used to, eliminate political opponents. You would hide, would catch them off their guards and remove their noses, and they're forever, be disgraced. Without a nose, oh, he's a liar. Look, doesn't have a nose. Yeah, crazy. Let's outlaw war, conflict. Are you nuts? It's part of human nature. It's part of natural order of things. All animals are in constant conflict, protecting their territory, protecting there's the predators that protect their territory from other of their own species, and then there's the herbivores, right? They go in herds and they watch each other's backs, you know. But in the end, everybody is watching for themselves, and that politician, he wanted to abolish that. He wanted to abolish the idea of people defending themselves, of reacting and acting and having, like what happened in Nepal recently. Have you heard what happened in Nepal? I mean, in a couple of days, the citizens just overthrew everything. The government wanted to again use the digital to control them, and they just wreck the whole thing. People don't know the power they have. Also, people have difficulty organizing themselves. That's why the minorities always rule, because they know how to organize themselves and they know how to manipulate the masses. And people may have the numbers, but they just can't seem to unify to. Well, in Nepal, they pretty much had a clear mind what was needed to be done. Yeah, but I mean, I recently heard there's already nations threatening their population to go full digital, otherwise they will lose their savings. It's crazy. Once everything is digitalized, there's no privacy. They can get a hold of you anytime they want. And if you don't comply with their insanity, they just, I don't know, disable your ability to use a bus or anything. Anyway, I'm gonna shut up now.